How did I get here? One second I was delivering a pizza, joking with a customer. The next, a bite, a scream, and everything changed. My arms moved, my legs obeyed, but not me. And then, the hunger came. Before the city streets were eerily quiet, broken only by the distant wail of sirens and the occasional crash of glass. Max Reynolds navigated his scooter through debris-strewn roads, the box of hot pizzas strapped to his back swaying with each bump. In all his years of delivering, he'd never seen the city like this. The outbreak had turned familiar neighborhoods into ghost towns. He arrived at the apartment building tucked between two collapsed structures. The smell of smoke and rot hung in the air. He didn't like it, but he had bills to pay. He hoisted the pizza box and climbed the stairs, one hand gripping the railing as the other balanced his delivery. The hallway was dim, flickering with a single dying light overhead. The smell grew stronger, a metallic tang mixed with something fouler he couldn't quite place. At the apartment door, he knocked and called out, "Pizza delivery." No answer. He tried again, louder this time. Footsteps approached from inside, slow, dragging, uneven. The door creaked open and he saw it. A pale figure with sunken eyes and ragged clothes, a grotesque parody of a human being. Its lips peeled back, revealing teeth caked in dried blood. Max froze. I think you have the wrong..." His words caught in his throat as the figure lunged. Pain exploded in his arm and shoulder as teeth sank in. Max dropped the pizza box. It slid across the floor, uncaring, forgotten. He swung wildly, hitting the creature with the side of his fist, but it didn't falter. The taste of blood filled his mouth, burning and bitter, and something inside him shifted, a cold, insistent hunger that wasn't there before. He stumbled back into the apartment, slamming the door behind him, his vision swimming. Heart pounding, he tried to force the pain out, but it spread fast, crawling down his arm, into his chest. He felt it changing him, twisting him into something else. The metallic tang of blood was now a siren in his senses, calling him to the living. From the hallway came more groans, more shuffling footsteps. Max's body reacted before his mind could, moving him toward the nearest hiding spot. He pressed himself against the wall, breathing ragged, trying to remember the mantras his father, a former cop, had drilled into him. Stay calm, fight, survive. But the hunger wasn't calm, it wasn't rational. It was clawing, gnawing at every shred of control he had left. The bite pulsed in rhythm with his heart, each beat feeding the virus spreading through his veins. Max's eyes blurred, shapes twisting, shadows moving where none existed. The pizza box lay abandoned, the smell of cheese and sauce mixing with blood and smoke, a reminder of the life he had moments ago. He could hear footsteps in the hallway, someone coming, someone alive. His body twitched, his mind screamed, "Don't let it take you! Fight! Fight!" But the hunger surged again, faster, stronger, and he could feel the first cracks of his humanity splintering. By the time help arrived, a distant scream of other survivors and the crash of a barricade being forced down the hall, Max Reynolds was no longer just a delivery man. He was caught in that liminal space between life and death, the bite burning like fire and the hunger pulling at him with the promise of a new, terrifying existence. During the first signs, Max Reynolds staggered through the small apartment, leaning against the cracked walls for support. The bite on his arm burned like ice and fire at the same time, and every heartbeat seemed to echo through his veins, carrying the insistent alien pull of the infection. The smell of blood, his own and that of the thing that attacked him, filled his nostrils. It was intoxicating. Max pressed his fingers to his mouth, tasting copper, tasting something darker, something that shouldn't exist. Panic rose, but it was muted under the growl that began to form deep in his chest, a gnawing hunger he could not shake. He saw a small table in the corner. On it, the pizza box he had dropped lay forgotten. The aroma of cheese and tomato sauce mixed with the metallic tang of blood, and his stomach, which had never screamed for more than hunger for food, now twisted with a need he didn't understand. His hand twitched almost involuntarily toward the box, then recoiled, but not before he felt the edge of the pull in his mind, the first taste of instinct overriding reason. Footsteps approached from the hallway, slow and uncertain. Max wanted to warn them, to stay hidden, to survive. But part of him, the part now partially lost to the infection, twitched toward them. The jerky movements of his limbs felt foreign. He tried to focus, to remind himself who he was, the life he had delivered pizzas for, the laughs shared with customers and colleagues. But the hunger roared louder, and the sound of approaching humans became an unrelenting call. Max stumbled toward the couch, gripping the bite in his arm as the infection spread upward, now tingling in his chest, crawling into his neck. His vision flickered, shadows warped into motion. Shapes he knew to be alive became targets in his mind, and the voice of reason whispered somewhere deep inside, "Don't. You have to fight." But the instinct was stronger. He could feel his muscles twitching independently, obeying commands from the hunger rather than his will. Every breath carried the metallic taste of blood. Every heartbeat synced with the gnawing pull inside him. Max's eyes widened as he realized he was losing control, and it was terrifying. The first crack in his humanity split the moment he moved toward the approaching footsteps, driven by impulses he couldn't comprehend. The fight between who he was and what he was becoming had begun, and the pizza delivery man who had simply wanted to do his job was being forced into something far worse. By the time the shadow of a neighbor fell into the doorway, Max's hand twitched again, muscles jerking, and the first irreversible step of the transformation had been taken. The pull of the hunger now dominated, whispering and screaming in equal measure, leaving only fragments of the man he had once been. During Fully Turned, Max Reynolds moved through the apartment hallway with jerky, unnatural precision. The infection had claimed his body completely. The pull of hunger dominated every thought, every movement. His once bright eyes were now dull, shadowed with black rings, and his hands twitched with anticipation at every heartbeat he sensed nearby. The first victim was a neighbor cowering behind a door. Max lunged with terrifying speed, hands closing around their arm, teeth sinking in before the person could react. The screams were cut short, replaced by the wet, ragged sounds of feeding. Hunger surged through him like wildfire, and for the first time, the streets and hallways of the city felt alive, pulsing with potential prey. His former life as a delivery man, the polite greetings, the small talk with customers, the simple satisfaction of dropping off a hot pizza, all were gone. What remained was an unrelenting drive to seek out the living, to satisfy a craving that could never be fulfilled. Outside the apartment, sirens blared and fires burned, but Max didn't notice. Smoke stung his eyes, flames licked the walls, and chaos reigned, yet his focus was singular, moving toward any living thing, toward the warmth, toward the blood that called to him. Occasionally, fragments of his old self surfaced, a memory of tossing a pizza box onto a counter, of laughing at a silly customer request, but they were fleeting, powerless against the growing compulsion. A group of survivors ran down the street, unaware of the danger behind them. Max sprinted after them, limbs jerking in unnatural rhythm, eyes locked on movement. The smell of blood and fear guided him. He tore through barriers, climbed over overturned trash cans, and navigated the wreckage of abandoned cars with an instinctive grace that belied his monstrous state. Even as he attacked, brief flashes of awareness struck. He recognized the chaos, the screams, the panic, but they lasted only a heartbeat before hunger dragged him back under, forcing him to continue the cycle of pursuit and feeding. He was trapped, enslaved to a drive he could neither comprehend nor resist. By the time the fires burned lower and the distant shouts faded, Max Reynolds was no longer a delivery man. He was a predator, a shadow among the ruins driven by unending hunger, caught in the liminal space between life and death. After death and release. The streets were silent now, littered with debris and the remnants of chaos. Smoke curled from burning cars and toppled signs, casting a red-orange haze over the city. Max Reynolds shuffled through the ruins, jerky movements betraying the zombie that had consumed him. The hunger pulsed relentlessly, but something deep inside began to flicker, a faint echo of the man he had been. Then came the figure, a survivor wielding a fire axe, calm and determined amid the devastation. Max's zombie instincts froze for a heartbeat. Recognition, a memory of his life before the bite, brushed the edges of his mind. But the hunger was still powerful, screaming, pulling at his limbs. The axe swung, striking true. Pain erupted, sharp and immediate, slicing through the remnants of the infected flesh. Max collapsed, his world blurring, and the relentless drive of the undead faltered. The heat of the fires, the chaos, and the pull of hunger all faded. For the first time, silence returned. In that silence, Max felt the weight lift. The taste of blood vanished from his mouth, replaced with clarity. The apartment hallways, the streets, the pizza boxes. Everything returned to memory, not instinct. He saw himself alive again, smiling, delivering pizzas, laughing with co-workers, feeling the simple joy of life. The pull of hunger was gone. The bite, the infection, the endless cycle of chasing and feeding, all of it dissolved. Max's soul, once trapped in the liminal space between life and death, finally breathed free. He stood slowly, feeling the warmth of his humanity return. The city still burned around him, but he walked away from the chaos, from the shadow of what he had become, released at last from the nightmare that had stolen him. It's over. The streets, the chaos, the hunger, it's gone. I'm no longer trapped between life and death. Even the simplest job can turn into a nightmare, but even monsters can be saved. This is Whispers Between Worlds. We upload horror daily. Remember me, because the nightmare never truly ends.